Back live and Inside the Game, episode 213, live here on the National Soccer Network. I'm Nate Wangler. That's Ryan Glinsky. A warm welcome to everybody coming back in today as snow and ice continues to cover the northern portion of the United States. Only threatening to get worse, actually, as we move along into the weekend. So for those of you who are not moving or not driving or not going anywhere and not going to work, I myself had a game last night, made two turns away from my house, went up the street and nearly got in a crash and saw three different cars slid off the side of the road. So I called my boss. I was like, hey, I mean, as much as I would love to come call this this men's volleyball game on a weeknight, I don't think it's worth sacrificing, potentially my vehicle or, anything else along those lines if I were to slide off the side of the road. So
you have an exploding tree? Have you seen an exploding tree yet?
No exploding trees.
I heard that.
Exploding trees.
I heard over there you guys are supposed to get exploding trees.
Interesting. Yeah. I saw a tweet about that or something yesterday that apparently because it's so cold, they're supposed to explode.
Yeah, the west side of the state, Minnesota and Wisconsin are supposed to have exploding trees. So again, if you could put a camera in front of one of your trees, record it, because I would like to see a tree explode. Or just blow up the tree yourself and say the tree exploded. You'll probably get a ton of views on Twitter or something because Twitter loves.
I might also get arrested too. I don't know if that's a crime to blow up trees. I guess we got to use you're like legal schmeagle, whatever.
It's just find the woods somewhere. There you go.
So thank God for Google. No, trees don't literally explode, but the sap freezing. Here we go. And expanding in extreme cold can cause loud cracking or splitting of the bark or wood, creating a sound like an explosion, known for a frost cracking or a bursting tree. Interesting. Happens when water in the tree's fluid carrying tubes freezes and expands rapidly, stressing the tree's structure, blah, 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 blah. So it's like the same as like a pothole in the road. Eventually the road just explodes, and then you have this massive hole that you just can't, got to make sure you don't drive in when you're driving past it. But yeah,
keep me updated,
I'll make sure I'll try to get you an exploding tree for sure. But thanks to everybody joining us again here on episode 213. Wanted to start off today with this weird story, and I know we're into our soccer portion, and we got a lot of good stuff we're covering today here in segment one. Again, the story between Morocco and Senegal just continues to get more and more wild. Ryan, you made a video on that yesterday, and it seems to be blowing up on social media right now. But Morocco,
we got some fan memes. We got some fan memes to show you guys.
Good, they deserve it. Morocco sending a petition to FIFA and CAF to strip Senegal of its title. You're talking about their version of CONCACAF. Show fan memes. Yeah, we're going to show some of those fan memes in the comment section when we talk about that. Also, Josh Sargent's horrible meeting with Norwich. Apparently, they came after his family. At least that's the rumor. What happened and why is this the last straw? I would have been really interested to actually hear what was said. Truth is, if you disrespect my family, probably would react the same exact way. Also, we're going to compare college football teams to soccer teams. Saw a really interesting post on social yesterday from our very own Ryan Glinsky that I think some of those comparisons are good. I think there's some teams that are missing, though. So I'm going to be curious to see what Ryan, the comp that Ryan has to certain teams that I did not see on that list. But let's start off here because you brought this to my attention this morning. Obviously, we're into the heat of the race to the NFL playoffs, officially into the semifinal round to figure out who's going to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl. And, it's one of those fun things year after year, especially when we get into March Madness and college basketball. Everybody makes their picks. And generally speaking, it's the people who make their picks without any sort of knowledge as to college basketball or what goes on in college basketball. They typically they end up doing the best. You look at
Why did you pick UMBC to beat Virginia? Well, I like that their mascot was the Terriers. Oh my god, and they win.
The Golden Retrievers, man.
Or Golden
Heck yeah,
Retrievers.
I would pick
It was
them
a dog.
too.
I hate those
Yeah,
people.
dogs.
I hate those people because they always win, and I actually spend time watching college basketball throughout the whole year. By the way, going to Michigan, Ohio State tomorrow. Trey Burke, the legend, going to see his jersey retired. I spend a lot of time watching college basketball, not just Michigan and Michigan State, not the Big Ten, but I will watch the ACC and the Big 12 of the SEC. And then I feel like I have a pretty good grasp. And obviously knowing the MAC, too. I know a little bit of the mid-majors as well. And then, like, my mom will go on and win it because she just like colors or mascots. Like, what?
Yep.
I don't like it.
Yep. And then it makes you – so you look at the ESPN panel and they make all their picks, and some of them end up doing terribly. That's the one time of the year where, well, maybe not the one time of the year, but the more specifically where I look at them and I'm like, why do you make the money that you do, man? Like the 7-year-old in our family just made better picks than you did. But it's simply just because of the madness of March Madness, right? It's single elimination. Well, anyways, all that to be said, it's fun to get the kids involved because they have no idea. And oftentimes the lack of intelligence in this situation, and this is why I think betting on sports is stupid sometimes because it's so unpredictable and you really never know, and you don't know until the two teams play. You like to get younger kids an opportunity to get their chance to make the picks and see how well you do. Such is the case for Reese Donatelli, who had been, a football prognosticator. Ooh, good word. I'm reading this article on CBS. Good word. Since before she could talk, selecting NFL teams she thinks will win on her dad's social media. Now, her dad is a radio talk show host. Her dad is entrenched in the sports talk scene, often with unexpected accuracy. So Reese, year after year, tends to make some pretty good picks. This year has not been the case. For years, football fans have loved her sass and excitement and all of that when she makes the picks, but the 4-year-old's predictions weren't panning out during the first weekend of playoff games this month. So people were actually starting to really put some stock into what this 4-year-old was saying and crafting their bets likewise. Many of the teams she picked as winners were actually losers. And since then, Reese's family has started to receive death threats. Her dad, Anthony Donatelli, received messages from people saying they were owed thousands of dollars because her predictions were wrong. It's nuts, Donatelli said. She's obviously not an NFL analyst. We know this. She's picking teams based on the color of her dress. That's pretty accurate. Or she'll pick the Packers because she likes cheese. I like cheese too.
But you can't
she
pick
just
the
relates
Packers,
to these.
You just can't pick them.
But I like cheese, so of course I'm going to pick the Packers. I like cheese. She just relates these silly little things as a reason why she picks certain teams. Okay, again, betting creating a sense of like mental illness in the American sports community. Yeah, I would say this. Also, if you're going to make a death threat towards a 4-year-old, man, I think it's time. I would say touch grass, but I don't even think touch grass necessarily does it justice for these people. I just think you need to put the phone down and find a new hobby. Maybe go watch birds. Maybe I don't paint a house. Go
maybe go
lift
$90
something.
into $390. It gets pretty addicting.
Oh, I understand that, but this is the whole thing that we're talking about. Like these people are junkies. You are a junkie. To anybody who did that, you are a junkie. And it's time to look in the mirror. The first step in solving a problem is admitting you have a problem. This is utterly ridiculous, Ryan.
Yeah, I had a buddy who went to again, obviously horrible situation. I'm gonna have a little different story when it comes to this whole sports betting thing. Obviously, the girl's 4 years old. She obviously will not see these death threats except her dad, which, again, I dropped him a follow. Anthony Dunn, he's got over 28,000 followers. By the way, a 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. talk show that this guy does, that's impressive every single day. 5 hours? Oof. That's tough to do. Anyway.
I got to keep in mind he got 700 advertisements mixed in there because it's radio. But it is still 5 hours.
That's a lot.
That's a marathon. That's a marathon.
Regardless, so at school, one of my buddies – we were just talking. It was baseball season, or this last baseball season, and it was like a month or two before the season started. And we were talking about Zach McKinstry because he's a Chippewa, all that fun stuff. He's like, dude, I really like Zach McKinstry, and I was like, oh, because he's a Chippewa. He's like, no, I was at Fenway Park when they played the Red Sox, and I just was wearing a Central T-shirt, and I just said, "Oh, fire up to Zach." He gave me his batting gloves, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool," because fire up chips, all that fun stuff. And then he said, because obviously this is the 2024 season. This happened. We were talking about this before 2025, and then he happens to see McKinstry before the game. Gets a signed ball by him, and he goes, "Hey, after the Fenway game, I sent you a DM. Just wanted to thank you for giving me some batting gloves. I really appreciated it." And Zach responds with, he goes, "Hey, glad you liked it, but I don't check my Instagram DMs anymore because all it is I owe people money because I didn't do anything in a bet, so I don't even check my DMs anymore. It's too hostile." But he goes, "Glad you liked it and fire up." But so it's not just the 4-year-olds; it's a lot of players too. And I'm sure if in any sport, any at least contributing athlete to a team receives some sort of death threats, and it's definitely starting to become. I mean, I can't say it's a pandemic, but I don't know what the correct term would be for a mental illness. An epidemic? No, pandemic. It's a pandemic. Sure, it's related to COVID, basically.
I mean, it could be an epidemic. I mean, an epidemic is like a drug epidemic. So, right, if they talk about Oxy or whatever, if that would be known as an epidemic. A pandemic is like a disease.
So epidemic.
Right. Yeah. So it would be an epidemic. But no, it's again, it's work and I don't, it would almost be interesting to go back and look at what are the specific numbers as it comes to gambling and how it has affected the American public from a sports perspective. Because, if you ever go to a casino, you can see who the addicts are, right? They're at the same place the entire time. They look disheveled. They look like they haven't showered in 4 days. They live there. They're just chiefing cigarettes the entire time. They got the same drink that they got when they walked in. Probably because they can't afford to get any more drinks because the rest of that money is being spent on blackjack or whatever the hell else they're doing. It's not hard to spot those people. But the hard thing about the gambling now is you don't know. I mean, it could just be Jerry in his living room who just sits by his TV all weekend just making bets.
It's so easy to bet.
It's so easy. It's so convenient. So I don't know. I would have to come back and, I would love to make some sort of bigger statement, but I should probably just look up the numbers and then read it off on the show just to see exactly what we're dealing with. But yeah, I think that a lot of these companies are unashamed in creating a country full of junkies because they can. And that's what you are. If you make a death threat towards anybody, forget a 4-year-old, a player, a coach, anything like that. Again, you need to just step back and realize that the world is we are a speck in the grand scheme of things. It's not necessary. It's actually freaking ridiculous.
Last story that I have, you're talking about spotting people. Obviously, Mount Pleasant, you have the Soaring Eagle Casino. I've been there a couple times, and one of the first times I was ever there, I was just walking around and I basically spent $20, lost it within 5 minutes, hated it, so I just went for the free pop, I guess, if that makes sense. And I look over into the slot machine, and there's this guy, and he's got 2 machines going at the same time. This is all he's doing, just hitting. I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden, then a couple years later, I eventually go back. I go to the casino, and I see the same guy, just buttons. I was like, what the heck? I was like, does he do this all the time? I wonder how much money you actually have to just sit there and hit in 2 slot machines. I guess it's penny slots, so I guess it's not a crazy amount of money that you're gambling every single time, but it's just I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah. I remember the last time I went to a casino in Washington. There's a guy that was just pulling out wads just out of his pocket.
Or Washington D.C.
Washington State. Yeah, Washington State.
Do they even have casinos in D.C.?
I'm guessing they do. I'm guessing they got everything in D.C. They got politicians in D.C., so I'm guessing that they like to gamble too. I mean, if I were to just, guess. But, but anyways, no, so he just wads and wads. And I'm like, dude, that's a lot of money. But, also, ain't nothing else you could do with that money? Not put it away for a rainy day, but, invest it or, do something else. I don't know. You're here spending $1 billion in the hopes of making $2 billion. It just doesn't add up to me. But anyways, getting into the heart of what we're doing here today. If you make death threats towards a 4-year-old, you're an effing clown, and it's time to get your head checked out. But anyways, woo! We're moving on in our show here today. We're going to take a quick break before we get into everything, but we got some announcements that we wanted to make known to you guys here. We got some academies coming up that are coming to the United States. And this is something that I know that we've already announced on our social media, but it's something we want to remind you guys of. And this was something that we were showing this morning. But FC Bayern summer soccer camps are a proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, fostering excellence across North America, open to boys and girls of all skill levels. FC Bayern camps deliver elite training inspired by FC Bayern Munich's world-class philosophy. Select your city and start a promising soccer path right now and save $30 on registration by using promo code Bayern NSN30. Again, that's Bayern NSN30, or scan the QR code right there on your screen. Again, to learn more, you can go to fcbayernyouth.com. Again, that's fcbayernyouth.com. We'll step aside and inside the game. Back live at Inside the Game, episode 213. I'm Nate Wangler. That's Ryan Glinsky. Thanks to everybody dropping in for another episode. Final episode of the week coming up tomorrow. I'm going to talk a little bit about our starting 11 for the U.S. men's national team. But first, let's get into, again, this story around the AFCON final, which continues to get more and more weird by the day. But you saw something yesterday, Ryan, and I'll kind of let you set the table on this. But Morocco apparently sending a petition to FIFA, as well as the CAF, to strip Senegal of its title. We've officially gotten to this point where Morocco is demanding that the title be stripped from Senegal after everything that we've seen about black magic and them walking off the field for 20 minutes. Everything combined in that, Morocco believes that they were wrongfully punished, and that the title was stolen from them. I'll let you set the scene for this one.
No, I'm just here for the memes. That's all I'm here for. These are the memes from everyone in the TikTok chat. I made a video yesterday about that they're a butthurt nation, and they just like towels, I guess. I mean, I don't really understand what's the obsession with the towels. I mean, I get it that the players or the goalies need them to wipe their gloves off from time to time to get a better grip on the ball. But, I mean, unless it's raining, I don't know if it makes that much of an impact if it's raining. But, no, I just liked all the memes. You see the one with Romain Saiss holding up the towel with Morocco. Then you look at the World Cup Group C. They have that as well with Haiti, Morocco with the towels at the bottom. And then look at their trophy with the Morocco towels. But I think that's the best one. It's the Drake one. You see the one where he doesn't want the AFCON trophy, but he likes the towel. But no, I just think that the memes are great, and I thought everyone in the video commenting, there was a lot of you. You guys really liked it, and you made me laugh a couple of times. But all I'll say this is, Morocco, just accept the L at this point. Like just just accept the L. Just go
Yeah.
home, enjoy your life, move on to the next one. You have the World Cup to redeem yourself in a couple months, and make another run like you did in 2022. You got to a semifinal. So just move on. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, we're just being a little ridiculous at this point, and for what? And again, it stripped their title based on what? Again, black magic. That's your evidence.
So what they're saying
That
is because the Senegal manager took them off the field, even though the captain Sadio Mane still stayed on the field, so it doesn't really count as a forfeit. But they thought that since the players walked off the field and then the fans were trying to get on the field and mess with the PK take of Brahim Diaz, but it was such a horrible PK. But a lot of people were saying that, you know what, with all this happened in this game, soccer won because that is where they really all the fans were glad that Senegal obviously won the game and our AFCON trophy winners. So congrats to Senegal, congrats to Morocco for being butthurt. I've never heard more of a butthurt team than you guys, clearly. But yeah, and it was held in Morocco too. So, that's another thing. I didn't even mention all that stuff. There was so obviously teams, right? Professional teams.
yeah.
They stay in hotels. Obviously, they get like kind of a police escort for the most part from place to
Yeah.
place. For some reason, every single team in the tournament did not get the proper police escort or like through hotels and stuff. Like they're just walking through the crowd like normal people. And they're getting bumped into. People were trying to get pictures with. Morocco had everything fine. Senegal actually almost didn't even get a hotel to stay at during the tournament because Morocco just, I guess, wasn't allowing it for some reason. So there was a lot of rigged stuff going on. I forgot the other team. I think Nigeria played Morocco, and there's a lot of questionable handballs, a lot of questionable PKs that Nigeria should have had that didn't get, and Morocco obviously won that game. So a lot of people are really happy with the result of this, except Morocco. But again, I think this is hopefully the last time we have to talk about Morocco until they beat us in the World Cup because they always beat us. That was some of the comments, too, was saying I'm a butthurt American fan because Morocco beats us all the time. I could care less that they beat us in the Olympics and in the Youth World Cups. As long as they don't beat us in the Senior World Cup, it doesn't matter.
Yep. Yeah, and that's fair. And I mean, this ain't even about the U.S. men's national team. This is just about the pointing fingers. And again, the one thing that we talked about yesterday that we're seeing more and more out of Morocco, like you can't play the bully and the victim. You are doing both right now with the off the field antics. The fact that Senegal doesn't have any sort of security, doesn't have a reliable hotel, which is something that's ridiculous that they maybe wouldn't have even had a place to stay before that game. Listen, I understand the little antics around a rivalry game. It's funny because when people speak on rivalries specifically and they're not really, they don't know anybody that's really been in that mix, it's hard to get a true grasp on the intensity of a rivalry. Like you and I, we're both Michigan fans, clearly, obviously. We've said that a few times. But when we play Ohio State, clearly the intensity of that rivalry goes unspoken. Like we know what that is. But if you know someone who's been in the rivalry, and if you know someone who has competed in that rivalry, then you understand inherently that there is another layer to what goes on in that rivalry. For example, my Uncle John was down in Columbus. I forget what year it was, but I believe it was his sophomore year. They cut the power to the hotel the night before.
Oh, makes sense.
No explanation, nothing whatsoever as say, hey, it's going to be on at this point. Never came back on before the next morning. Just cut the power. Just cut it. Vandalizing cars, vandalizing school property, literally Wolverine Packaging Company, who has nothing to do, by the way, with the Michigan Wolverines. It just says Wolverine on the side of the truck. They get their stuff vandalized on rivalry week simply because it says Wolverine on the side of their vehicle. That's it. I mean, you think crossing out the M's is the worst thing that they do down there for the? No, you're
dumb.
You're high
if
you
say
think
that's just dumb.
Oh, it's stupid. I get tradition, but like that was the sweetest part about winning 4 straight times. It's like, all right, go on, cross your M's. We'll wait until next year. So, but anyways, that's the nature of a rivalry. So I get the petty stuff. I understand that. But again, I said this yesterday. This feels like a real, coffee calling the kettle black type of situation. Like you're going to get all up in arms about this or that, them walking off the field, but yet we're not going to look in a mirror and realize the part that we played in the craziness of all this. I think the use of your word butthurt, I think was probably my favorite of all this, the most butthurt nation, because it really does seem that
Yeah,
way.
they were real. I mean, obviously we've seen some bad losses, like the Bills. The Bills losing to the Broncos in a horrible fashion. We saw this past weekend. I don't recall the. I mean, I guess maybe the overtime rules when the Chiefs, but I didn't see them go to the NFL, Roger Goodell, and be like, "You got to strip the Broncos of this win because of this horrible call." Which again was a horrible call, but you don't see teams like, "Oh my God, we need to go. We need to go to the top and strip this of this." Nothing's gonna
Yeah.
happen. It's just you lost the game. You lost it. Like is the Ohio State fans basically wanted Michigan to go back in 2021, 2022 to like somehow reverse time and give Ohio State those wins so then they could go win the Big Ten and go in the playoff. Like you just can't do that. You can't just
Yeah.
strip a team of a title like that and give it to somebody. Yeah, we've seen time and time again in a couple places where you know what the title ended up getting stripped, but that doesn't mean the title just goes to the other team that lost in the finals. Like Michigan basketball's not 2013 NCAA champions. No, it's technically Louisville won it, but they it's just not there anymore. It's just not with them. It's just revoked. But no, it's I will say this. I think soccer is one of the most petty sports, I guess if you want to say. Like I don't see stuff like this happen in other sports, football, basketball, hockey, baseball. I mean baseball is probably going to start here soon in terms of all that. But no, you don't see this stuff. You don't see teams getting deducted points or games in other leagues during the season. You don't see people. You don't see teams presenting information to the higher ups of the league, unless you're Ohio State, to say they cheated, they did this, deduct them, lose the points because they lost the game. But you see that a couple times in soccer in terms of that stuff. But no, this is very like if the U.S. decided to. When they lost to Mexico in the Gold Cup, no, that should have clearly been a handball. Strip Mexico. No, they just took the loss and went home, even though they didn't even deserve to win the game anyway. But no, it's a very petty sport. But by the way, love the memes. Keep the memes coming. I think they're great. If you got any Mexico memes, just because Mexico sucks, put them in the chats. Put them in the comments because I love sharing these things. They're so awesome.
Oh man, yeah, and like I said, the whole thing. Well, it just means more. It just means more over there. It just means more. Or like with the SEC, blah 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 blah. You know what? Okay, sure, but that it doesn't mean that doesn't give you the green light to just act like a clown. Like it just means more. So therefore, I'm going to carry myself this way.
Adults.
Maybe you're just a baby. Maybe everything in your life hinges on what a group of 20-some-year-olds are going to do on the weekend. Like, trust me, I love sports with a passion myself, but maybe this is a you problem, the fact that your entire life hinges on whether or not you win this. Again, you mentioned it, Ryan. Like, the biggest goal for Morocco is still ahead of them, and that's going out and winning a World Cup. Now, is it likely? Again, I don't know. I don't really think they're one of the favorites to go win the World Cup. I'd wonder where they would be on that list.
They could make a quarterfinals to semis. Like
that's what I'm saying. Easily. So
like
your biggest goal is ahead of you. So just drop it.
Like they're one of the up and coming nations. If you really look at the landscape of international soccer, they're one of the most up and coming nations in playing the game of soccer, and they're so upset about this. Like, who cares? Just I don't know. It's annoying. We talked about it every single day, but it just gets crazier and crazier. And the fact that they're going to have to go to the Confederation of Africa. I forgot the exact name of it, but that's what the CAF stands for. Like, dude, come on, guys. Like, be adults for a change. You lost a game. Who cares? Stop acting like a 10-year-old.
Just a little bit of perspective, right? Like we still got the World Cup ahead of us. Like it was a tough matchup. It is what it is. One of those things. But
hey, it could be worse. You could get grouped in your own nation like the U.S. did in Copa America. Could be a lot worse. But you made it to the final.
Also, I got to give them a little bit of credit. At least it means something to go win an AFCON final. It doesn't mean really much to us to go win a Gold Cup final.
No, not anymore.
I mean,
no.
winning Copa America probably would have meant a little bit more,
It meant
but
a
yeah,
lot more.
it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really matter a whole lot here, at least to Americans in particular. There's a reason why we don't play in the primetime slot in our own country.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, that's true.
Like, especially if you're on the West Coast, you're not going to get the majority of the fans in the stands wearing red, white, and blue. Like, that's just the reality. Now, it might mean something a little bit to Mexico, but generally it means more if they beat us. Like, that's kind of it. You know, you just kind of hope you meet Mexico at the end of the line and we have another classic in that rivalry. The rivalry Ryan says is the fiercest in all of international play. Nothing better.
People got mad at me for that
US,
too. I think that's
Mexico.
my whole point of being on this earth is to just make people mad on the internet, I guess.
Just a rage bait people.
I
No,
pissed
you're one of them new age. You're one of them new age social media folks. You just keep poking buttons. I know you mean it.
I posted about Indiana, posted about USA, Mexico, posted about Morocco. People didn't like that. I posted about Minnesota back in the day. They didn't like that. Like, they just be getting mad at me. And honestly, I could care less because you comment on the video, it gets more engagement, more views, more people see my wonderful, beautiful face. I could care less. I really don't care.
More people follow our wonderful, beautiful show. So, speaking of our wonderful, beautiful show, we'll step aside again when we come back. Let's talk a little bit about Josh Sargent and what went down with Norwich. I'm interested to see what Ryan knows, and I'll give you what my response would be if someone wanted to insult my family in any sort of business dealings. Yeah, you would know where to shove it very quickly. We'll talk about that coming up next here on Inside the Game.
Experience the thrill of the game like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
Whether it's a championship win or a legendary play,
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
and start watching today.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I was wondering that. I didn't move anything.
There we go. All right. That looks a little bit cleaner there, unless you want to just talk to the one half of my face. That's fine.
Two-Face from Batman?
There you go. Hey, what a reference. What a drop.
What was his actual name, though, in the movie? Like, because obviously he was the politician, and then he got half his face burnt out. Was it Henry Dent? Harvey Dent. Was it that?
Harvey, no.
Who is Two-Face in Batman?
No.
Yeah, it was Harvey Dent.
Oh, it was Harvey Dent.
Harvey Dent.
You're right. Yep.
Oh, we did have a comment in
the guy who created him. But
yeah,
anyways,
we did have a comment in the YouTube chat from Rabbi Mofid. He put American flag emoji, flex emoji, Morocco flag, flex emoji, heart. So I imagine he's American and Moroccan.
All right.
But hey,
nice.
You have a good team.
Appreciate you stopping by.
Just don't steal my towels.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
But
no. And that's kind of what I texted you the other day. I'm like, at what point do you just start swinging on people? Like, if you got 4 people coming up to you at the same exact time, like, credit to that guy for showing the amount of restraint that he did, because that's a tough thing to do, especially when you're getting chased around the stadium like that. But let's get into a little bit this Josh Sargent story. We all know the red hot start that he was off to in 2025 in the beginning of the regular season. I mean, the kid just seemed unstoppable the way that he was playing, and it was impressive, but I feel like it faded really quickly. It kind of flattened out as the season went along. You reading something? You got a comment on there?
Oh no, I'm just reading the stuff that I'm about to read for the Josh Sargent thing.
Oh, okay.
It's just I'll just read it. A couple days ago, it was said that he is training with the Norwich U21s and won't play this weekend, meaning this past weekend. Sargent only wants Toronto. Norwich says not for sale, but talks are continuing with Toronto. Sargent just welcomed his third child. Family wants to go back to North America. Then last night, again, same source saying, after a heated meeting with Norwich City sporting director Ben Napper and head coach Philip Clement, it appears that Josh Sargent has played his last game for the club. Sargent was seen visibly upset. One source says there was a comment made regarding his family, which was the last straw. He continues to train with the second team as he pushes for transfer to Toronto FC, Toronto and Norwich are continuing negotiations. But yeah, I think it's just a spell ran its course, and he's just going to come back to the MLS at some point. And it's just going to be a matter of time, not an if, but it is a when. And Josh Sargent, feel for him a little bit, because I think anybody in the world, at least anyone with a brain, if you mentioned his family, I'm sure that was probably in discussions. I'm sure that was, he probably told the higher ups, you know what, I just had my third child, I want to go back and do that, because it has been documented well that he didn't like being in Germany with Werder Bremen. He didn't like living in Germany. He wanted to be, I think, a little bit more with the English language, I guess, if that makes sense. And clearly he wants to put his family maybe a little bit closer to his family and continue to – I mean, he's going to come to the MLS at some point. He's going to dominate, and he's going to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. And I think he's going to do well with Toronto FC if he ultimately gets there. But whenever he comes to the MLS, he's going to do really good. But, yeah, I think it just ran its course at this point. He's got to come back.
Well, it definitely ran its course, and I think we understood that he was on his way back. 56 goals in 156 games with Norwich City for Josh Sargent. Again, that's the body of work for him to begin this year. Again, there was a week or two there where we were having discussions about, hey, is Josh Sargent becoming our best option in terms of an attacker? Now, obviously, that's since gone away. Now we're talking about Flo Balogun, Alex Sendejas. Obviously, Brendan Aronson is in the mix there. But is no longer really in those conversations. But as you mentioned, still just 25 years old, right? Has 3 kids, has a wife. So everything you do at that point, not everything, but I'm sure the biggest thing on his mind is like, how do I make my family more comfortable? But Ryan, can we just admit that there was probably something said along the lines of there was probably something extremely disrespectful said about it, not only just his family and probably how his family is affecting his play, and they're the reason why he's making this move, but also something disrespectful along the lines of Major League Soccer and coming back to the United States to play.
Yeah,
right. There's only one reason why someone would have such a visceral reaction to a meeting with front office representatives like that, when all he did was come in there and go, hey, listen, guys, my priorities have changed. Okay, my family needs me now. They need me to be stateside, even if that's in Canada. I mean, you're right up the road. They need me to be back in North America so that I can be able to actually be a better dad and be there and be more consistent and do the things that I need to do as a father. Because not every U.S. men's national team player is either, number one, married or has kids. And your versatility and your ability to go all over the place is a lot better when you don't have children or a family to worry about. You talk to me about that. I'm almost 30. I know people that, yeah, exactly. I have
a girl.
Right. I have friends that are married and expecting kids, and like, hey, man, they do what they do on the local level, but it's not like they can just drop everything and move somewhere tomorrow, because they simply don't have the flexibility to do so. And I'm not justifying Josh Sargent's decision. I think it's a great decision, especially if you're getting offered $18 million from Toronto FC. Absolutely, I would make that move. But
Well, that's just the
Again,
transfer fee. I don't know how much you'd be making.
well, yeah,
I don't know how
well,
much you'd be making
okay.
a week.
That's true. But I mean, I'm assuming they'll probably give him a pretty lump sum. But either way, I think we can fill in the gaps ourselves confidently and know that there was disrespect shown on two levels. Not only his family, but also something I'm sure very disrespectful about playing in North America or playing in the United States. Canada, I just kind of loop into that group, right? Because there's a few Canada teams, but the majority of the league in Major League Soccer is in the United States. I don't need to be in that room. I don't need to be in that circle. I don't need to be in that meeting. I don't need to be a fly on the wall or have a camera or a microphone attached to it in the room to know that there was a level of disrespect shown for a player who was simply willing to look out for his family and return back to the United States. And again, if you want to keep playing around with there's no disrespect, hey man, that's fine. If you want to keep lying to yourself, that's okay. But here's another glaring example of that, right? And no one goes in with the intentions of saying these things like I need to look out for my family, expecting on the other end to be so enraged that they just simply walk out of the meeting. So I don't know what was said. And my guess is we're not going to find out from Norwich exactly what was said, but if you're making a player that mad, yeah. My guess is that it probably was something along the lines of dumb American, you did this to yourself.
I also think his form, as of recently, has probably
It's not
affected him as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you think of the start that he had. We talked about it. Is he potentially in the running to be a starting striker for us? And people 100% thought that. And I think myself included said that. Like, you're a starting striker and doing it well in the championship in a league that is highly regarded in terms of the world scale. But ever since then, he's really started to struggle a little bit. And I think also that has maybe hurt his play. Like, if you think about it, if the family weighed so much in this decision to go back to the MLS, or never back to the MLS, but back to North America, you got to think that some of that has affected his play currently right now with Norwich City. That, I just had this kid, I really need to get back. So maybe his head is not all the way in the game that you would like. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that has played a little bit of a factor.
Well, let's face it. I mean, if you don't like the place that you're living, if you don't like the place that you're living in, if you don't like your surroundings, if you don't like, much like a college player, if you don't like the campus that you're on, if you don't like those things, well, then obviously you're not going to want to stick around. There's no extra incentive for him to stick around in that situation. And I think that the family stuff, all the other pressures in terms of what he thinks I need to do as a professional probably affects his play on the field at the same exact time. All of that completely makes sense. Again, we're listing reasons as to why he's making this move, and I understand it. And frankly, I think he's going to be a far more popular player, that is, in an American league. And it's a chance, obviously, for him to revamp his career. Now, does Josh Sargent go back overseas? We don't see that a whole lot. And we've talked about that, right? When they come to the MLS, you don't normally see the move from Europe to Major League Soccer back to Europe. That's not something you see a whole lot. So for Josh Sargent, I think the realization that, hey, this might be like a permanent career decision is probably weighing on his mind a lot. And so that's the part that, again, this is a family decision. So if Norwich took that opportunity to kind of disrespect him and go, well, you're making the biggest mistake of your life. Your family is the reason why you're never going to be back here. Whatever it is that they felt like they wanted to say, again, because they think they can talk to Americans however they see fit, especially American soccer players, that would enrage me as well, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, if I think anyone with a brain, with a family, would be pissed off about that. I mean, the only people that probably wouldn't get pissed off is if they don't have a really good relationship with their family, or they don't see their family like ever and don't have any contact with them, which again is also very sad. But I would say I think anyone would probably react the same way. And I think if you're looking from a Norwich City perspective, they also don't want to lose the player. They know the potential. There might be some conversations like we've mentioned time and time again here of, maybe the family has weighed in on his playing. And they obviously don't want to lose the player, and they might be a little bit upset that it's not necessarily an injury affecting his play. It's not necessarily a tactical thing. It's something that's up here, and I think a lot of people don't really understand that, I guess, is the mental side of the game. And a lot of people,
Yeah.
in all sports, doesn't have to just be soccer, but I don't think a lot of people really like hearing that it's a mental thing in terms of affecting your play.
Yeah. We'll take one more break here, but very quickly before we head to break for our final segment here of hour one on Inside the Game here today. We're talking about soccer camps, telling you a little bit about Barca Academy a little bit earlier, or rather, we're telling you about Bayern Academy. Now we'll talk about Barca Academy, is the proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network and the official academy of FC Barcelona in the United States, designed for boys and girls ages 6 to 18. Barca Academy camps follow and replicate the FC Barcelona game model, the same philosophy used by Barca's professional coaching staff. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code FCB30. Again, that's FCB30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you, fcbarcelona.us/camps. Again, that's fcbarcelona.us/camps. Coming up next at Inside.
In Barca camp, I sing my song Grown on and off of the field. Don't miss the time to register.
Sign up now for Barca camp.
Back live and Inside the Game, episode 213. Nate Wangler alongside Ryan Glinsky on the show here today. Getting into our final topic here on hour one. Ryan, you sent me an interesting post yesterday. College football teams as soccer teams. So I guess the post, the way that I had seen it, kind of went through one by one all the different college football teams as European soccer teams. I guess I'll let you read through a few of those.
I'm not gonna lie, it's really spot on, this whole list. Which, by the way, during the commercial break, the sun came out and it stopped snowing. Very happy about that. But no, I think this whole list is spot on. Number one, Indiana, the 2023-2024 Bayer Leverkusen team. That's so spot on. You think of both of these teams, they go undefeated and they go against the grain. It's not a traditional power to win the title. Indiana, first ever national championship in football. Bayer Leverkusen finally stops the 8-year skid of Bayern Munich winning the Bundesliga from time and time again. And I think my point about Indiana football is going to continue if this is the comparison, because a lot of these players that left Bayer Leverkusen now kind of suck. So once they move their team and go elsewhere, they kind of suck afterwards. But no, that was an unbelievable team. And the manager just got fired from Real Madrid, obviously. So Xabi Alonso was the manager of that team too. So there were new coaches too, because Signetti 2 years in, Xabi Alonso 2 years in. Wow, that's a very good comparison. I didn't even really think about that much, but no, phenomenal comparison for this one. This one's spot on too, and I don't like it. Texas's Arsenal. Constantly claiming they're back and haven't won a league in 20 years. Jace, that's spot on. That's spot on, actually.
Who's your Arch Manning on the team? Who's Arch Manning on Arsenal right now? Who's the young promised one?
I would say Ethan Winieri. Ethan Winieri would have to be the young promised one. because he now just
Right.
went out on loan to Marseille. Yeah, I would say so.
But he's pretty good, isn't he? I feel like Arch is just kind of mid.
Yeah, I really can't say we have an Arch Manning because all the young prospects have either developed or they just been sold. So if anything, I would say we don't. He's not a young prospect, but he was a hyped up player coming over from what team did he come over from? Sporting Lisbon. Victor Gyökeres. He kind of sucks, but he was a lot of hype coming into the season. They spent a lot of money on him. So yeah, I would say if anything, our Arch Manning is Victor Gyökeres. Not because he's a young player, but the fact that he was really hyped up and has been mid ever since. But man, gosh, I don't like that because it's so good. I will say Arsenal's had more success recently than Texas has, but this year's got to be your year. Come on, guys. I'm not gonna lie. This might be like one of the best lists I think I've ever seen. This is, of course, on Goal USA's Instagram. Alabama is Real Madrid, arguably the greatest program to ever do it. Currently struggling with coaching staffs that the fan bases do not truly trust. I mean, yeah, you think about it. You think about with Ronaldo, Benzema, and Bale, they won 3 straight Champions Leagues. You think of what Alabama did with Saban, winning all those national championships. Great players, time and time again. You think about all the people that have gone through Real Madrid, all the players that have gone through Alabama, and then into the pros. Fishiness about money spending, just saying, just putting it out there. And then ever since their Zidane left, and ever since Saban left, it has not been the same. And you have a couple of superstars, I guess, if you want to say that have underperformed, aka Ryan Williams and Vinny Jr. But that's another good one. Ooh.
And their fan base is always going to hold on to the past, and that's the reality of where we're heading right now with Alabama football. They never had to talk about past, but now the SEC, all they can talk about is past.
You may have jumped the gun because there is one that talks about the past, so you may have jumped the gun a little bit. But no, the Real Madrid and Alabama talk about the past. Yes, this one again, spot on again. Oregon is PSG. Fun attacking style highlighted by big name jerseys / kit deals and iconic fashion. I mean, you're in Paris. PSG always has, like, their jerseys are always, like, a little bit extra. You think about Oregon with the Nike money, and that's the only reason why they're in the spot that they are today, because of Nike being in Eugene. I mean, PSG did win a Champions League last year, but other than that, they've never really done anything. They've always been kind of in the conversation, and if you think of Oregon, you know, they've always been in the conversation, but they've never actually won anything. If you really think about it in the grand scheme of things, like, they've had really good teams. They lost to Auburn. They lost to Indiana this year. They lost to Ohio State last year. But the only thing, I should say this is probably the worst one just because PSG does have a Champions League. But and there's been more superstars with PSG than Oregon. But no, it's still another good one based off fashion.
Yeah, I mean, not a national championship. They've won Pac-12 championships. They've won other things, but they've obviously never won the big one. So that is absolutely true. I actually told my buddy the other day, I was like, it has to be the most tortured experience in sports. I realized that being a Bills fan is probably the worst. Outside of that, being an Oregon football fan has to be up there too. Because yeah, you talk about routine disappointments. They've made a reputation of that.
Okay. Oh, I got to write that down. That's my question of the day for tomorrow. I have a question for you.
Okay.
It's a Lions-based thing. This one, Ohio State equals Barcelona, elite at developing talent, currently led by young stars, a.k.a. Jeremiah Smith and Lamine Yamal. I would say this is, like, now, I guess you could say it, but Barcelona, I mean, both iconic teams in the 2010s, late 2000s. I could see it, but right now, I don't know. It hurts a little bit or I shouldn't say hurt. It hurts this case a little bit just because Ohio State has the national championship. Barcelona hasn't won anything of significance recently ever since Messi left. But then there was like that little spell of Barcelona where they were just kind of mid and mediocre. And Ohio State really hasn't been mediocre. But I guess if you're counting about the current team, I guess I could see it.
Yeah. I also think Ohio State and maybe Arsenal would be a good comparison because their fan base is just insufferable. You know, and that's the thing that makes Ohio State hard to really follow along with. I mean, you trademark the word "the" on the side of your academic buildings, and it's so funny because you ask them, you're like, "Well, why did you trademark the?" They're like, "Well, there's another university in Ohio, So we got to be able to differentiate us and them. You're so damn insecure that you have to differentiate you in a MAC school. Yeah, there's other Michigans in Michigan. There's actually a Michigan State.
There's 5.
You just
that have
add
Michigan in the
one
name.
more word. Yeah, and you got Central,
no,
you got
6.
Eastern, you got Western.
7.
You got
because Michigan Tech, Northern Michigan, the 3 MAC schools, Michigan State. So there's 7.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but
Right.
Michigan ain't trademarking nothing.
So
Weird.
So we should put "the" on the side of our buildings just so people know. Hey, it's not us. We're unique. We're special. Think about us today.
This one's a great one. Notre Dame is Tottenham, both teams that I despise.
Oh, yeah.
Despite big brands and fan bases, they lose when the lights are the brightest, including the national championship, semis, and including Champions League finals and semifinals. This is great because if you really think about it, Notre Dame hasn't won anything because obviously you can't win a conference championship. And even when you were technically in the ACC during the COVID year, you didn't win it because Clemson beat you. They haven't won a national championship since the 80s. Tottenham has won 1 Europa League, has won 1 trophy in like 30 years, and which was last year. And then they fired their coach after the fact, which, again, stupid. But then you still have every now and again some really good players that go through the programs, whether that's through Tottenham, Heung-min Son, Harry Kane. Then you think of Notre Dame with Manti Te'o was a dog. Who's the running back? Jeremiah Love, Harrison Smith, who's still kicking in the NFL, might retire, but he was on that. So no, I think that's a great one, and 2 teams that I highly dislike. Next, this is one I was talking about with history. You may have jumped a gun a little bit. USC equals Man United. Dominant 20 years ago, but unable to put together anything real in the last decade. People love to talk about them, but they always talk about the past. Man United's a mess. USC, I'd say under Lincoln Riley, has definitely leveled the ship and steering it in the right way, but what has Lincoln Riley ever won? The Big 12? The Big 12 when Texas wasn't good? And never won a playoff game.
Just about it. Yeah, I would say that's about the extent of that. I think that's a fairly accurate. And the thing is, USC is another one of those schools. You talk about recruiting, like they're going to spend a decent amount of money. Like they're always going to be towards the top of those lists. But again, they're just not really anything they do with it. So there's still very much a brand there. And that's why I was excited to see those Michigan USC matchups again, just because of the history behind it. But yeah, they haven't done much of anything with it.
Iconic jersey game as well. This one is really spot on as well. Nebraska is Dortmund. Some of the best fan support in the world, despite a lack of recent success and not winning anything. Sell out every game no matter how the team is performing. I mean, that's right. I mean, Dortmund has probably Signal Iduna Park is probably it might be the best atmosphere for a soccer game there is. And Dortmund doesn't win a whole lot. But they pack it every single time. And Nebraska, I mean, there ain't nothing to do in Nebraska regardless, but they sell out their stadium every single game despite being like 4-8 or 5-7. Like even this year with Raiola when they sucked and had no quarterback, they still sold out everything. So no, that is a really, really good one. Last one before we go to break. A&M is Chelsea. Dropped unlimited money on transfers in recent years. Haven't been able to put any results together. The only difference I would say is Chelsea has had some success in the early 2000s and 2010s, a lot more success than A&M. But if we're talking about the whole money aspect, But I guess that also comes with the territory of the owner being the Dodgers owner at the same time. So, no, I think that's really spot on for some of these. For some of these, we might have to find what international soccer teams are compared to pro teams here in the U.S. because I think that would be a really good one. I'll have to try to find a list or create my own list. I think that would be really, really good.
Yeah, that would be. Anyways, great comparisons on that one. We will go to break. Again, our all sports content coming up next here on Inside the Game. We got one more camp to notify you guys of, though. We got Man City also coming to the shores here in the States. Manchester City Soccer Camps, proud sponsor of the National Soccer Network, bringing world-class training inspired by Man City's global football philosophy to players across the United States. Open to boys and girls of all skill levels. These camps focus on technical development, decision making, and playing the game the city way. Find a camp near you. usacamps.mancity.com. Again, that's usacamps.mancity.com. Right now, you can save $30 on registration by using promo code MCNSN30. Again, MCNSN30, or scan the QR code on your screen. Find a camp near you. FC Barcelona, or rather, well, that's in the wrong area. So don't listen to that. usacamps.mancity.com. We'll be right back. Back live at Inside the Game, Hour 2 here on the National Soccer Network. My name's Nate Wangler. That's Ryan Glinsky. Ryan, let's get into our all-sports stuff that we got going on here today. Had a great list coming into the show. Wanted to start off with this first, and this is something that I think we talked about on the show a little bit yesterday. So to see it pop up in the social sphere, I thought was very entertaining. But Amon-Ra St. Brown had some passionate words for the Detroit football fan base the other night as it pertained to everything happening in the offseason, in the bringing in of a new offensive coordinator, them not going after Mike McDaniel. I mean, one thing after another. I saw some responses to the videos today, people like hypothetically putting themselves in the corner since Amon-Ra St. Brown said to calm down. Listen, y'all can just calm down in general because it seems like a lot of y'all just don't know ball. But what did you see out of that video, and set the scene for this one?
Oh, I was just gonna play the video.
Oh, all right. Well, that works.
We're gonna play the video, and then we'll talk about it after.
Crazy Lions fans talking crazy, like, oh, why would we do this? Like, bro, do you guys like have no trust in Dan? Like, in the Lions, like, you think they would just hire a random dude? Like, be for real. Like, you think they don't know what they're doing? They don't do their research. They don't interview. Like, most of you guys don't know really much about anything, about any ball.
Wow. Wow.
And you're tweeting about a coach that was hired that you guys don't like because of XYZ. Like, it's just funny to me to see. Don't get me wrong, I love all Lions fans, but they are so quick to make, judgments about who we hired, who we did this. Like, bro, just relax. Calm down. Like, let the whole thing play out. Like, you guys just let it play out. Just relax. That's all I gotta say. Relax, man. Relax.
Equinemius' face is so awesome. He's like, you're really about it. Like, if you hear him say, wow, you're really gonna shoot down the fans, my man. Like, you can't be saying that. And like, the whole time you see his face, he's like,
if there's anybody though that I think has the right to be able to do that, it's probably Amon-Ra St. Brown.
He said this with Johnny Moe, though. He said this with Johnny Moe.
He did. So, I got to give him credit for being ballsy in that way. But the funniest part to me, number one, we're the media, right? Like this is the job of the media, is to debate about these things. It's to talk about these things, why we think Mike McDaniel might be a better choice, why we think maybe Dan Campbell going for the safe option in this situation probably wasn't the right choice because it doesn't put the Lions in the right situation. But this pompous, almost arrogant attitude of, well, just let it play out. Do you guys not trust Dan? Oh yeah, we let it play out this year. You want to know how it played out?
No playoffs.
We're not in the playoffs. We choked away games. Okay, we went on fourth down in stupid situations. Dan Campbell single-handedly coached us out of several of those games that we lost. What, just sit back and trust? I'm just supposed to just sit back, sit on my hands, and just allow Brad Holmes to cook. What did he cook exactly last year?
No playoffs.
Like burnt Brussels sprouts and I don't know. He burnt the damn broccoli. I mean, we were expecting a 5-course meal and we got damn McDonald's. What exactly am I supposed to sit back on, Amon-Ra? Explain that to me. What am I supposed to trust? So as much as I agree and as much as I back up his sentiment about how people don't really understand the sport of football, which I will 100% give you that. It's the most popular sport in the United States. The NFL dominates the pro sports scene in the U.S., right? So everyone is going to have an opinion. And before anybody points me out for this, I'll put my right hand to the sky and tell you, I am not the most knowledgeable soccer fan on the planet. I don't understand the game back and forth. There have been many a times where I've said something and Ryan has like kind of either laughed to himself or immediately corrected me because he's like, you have not grown up watching the Premier League. You don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing my best, right? I'm doing my best Pat McAfee impersonation. I feel like every morning talking about the Premier League. I'm doing my best. Yeah, middle back. I'm doing my best to learn, but I just don't really understand. Right, and so I can say the same exact thing for casual fans when it comes to football. By the way, it's America. You can have your opinion. You can watch the sport. But Amon-Ra, I believe our critiques of this organization are perfectly legitimate. When you look at the way Brad Holmes fumbled the 2025 season, no pun intended. And we've talked about the layers to this. Okay, you don't promise Ruth Chris and then give me, I don't know, what? Mr. Burger? Mr. Burger's pretty good. Actually, that's insulting to Mr. Burger, but you get the point. We're just supposed to let it play out? Oh, wait, how does that work? If I'm not mistaken, people have let this thing play out for years and years. Decades and decades they've been Lions fans, and it's been the same BS every single time. Now, I'm not in a position of authority to be able to go toe-to-toe with Amon-Ra St. Brown. But the reality is this. I will say that Detroit sports fans' frustrations are misguided. If you're having conversations about, well, we need to replace Jared Goff, get out.
Yeah.
Get out. In that situation, you don't know ball.
Need him.
You don't know ball. My guess is that he's probably one of 3 players that you know if you think he's the reason why the Lions are in the position that they're in. Get out. You're not a part of the conversation anymore. Jared Goff is not the problem. Aiden Hutchinson is not the problem. Jahmyr Gibbs is not the problem. Our skill position players are not the problem. We know what the problem is. And we already said this. He might be a good fit for this team. I understand there are interviews. I understand there's a personality component to this. I talked about the identity of this Lions team. And if they wanted an identity guy, again, who produces good run games and solid offensive lines, they probably got their guy. But was he the choice? You know, if I have an option between I can afford an amazing sports car, or I can spend, maybe half the amount of money on a reliable vehicle, I don't know. I guess it all depends on what your goals are. Do you want to win now? Or do you just want a guy who's the same rah-rah nonsense that you can just keep around for a few extra years because you're so scared? Because Ben Johnson left you, and he left you with nothing. No, I'm sorry. The job of the media is to talk about these things. Because if we just let it ride and we don't question anything, what happens last year? And this was the thing heading into the 25 campaign, and I'll let you get your opinion in here really quickly. I know I'm ranting right now. But it frustrated me to no end that people were like, we lost a couple of coordinators. Like, we still got all the pieces we need to go win. Our window is still very much open. We still have all the pieces we need to go win big games and potentially win a Super Bowl. Yeah, we see how that played out. And I said that from the beginning.
I would say you can't attack the fans, right? You can't. Who pays?
No.
Who pays for basically your salary? Who pays to come to your games? Who watches you on TV week in, week out? Who gets all the highest viewed stuff? The Lions do. Who was put on primetime every single game? Pretty much every single game this year. The Lions, where the fans the fans support you. They pay for your salary, basically. They pay for your contract. And you decided to attack them? Why? That's why Equinemius is like, wow. Interesting. You're really going to go that route, brother? I mean, I get it. You're upset that people are kind of questioning you because you feel like you have a little bit of respect from everybody because of what you've done the last couple of years. But this is a new Lions era, I guess, if you want to say, because there's no Ben Johnson, no Aaron Glenn, no Ragnow. You're probably your most important piece. You're going to start losing some guys here. Glasgow possibly, Decker possibly. Like the Lions have the Lions fans have a reason to question you, Amon-Ra. I shouldn't say Amon-Ra personally, but they have a reason to question the Lions. Look at last year. They hired their 2 new coordinators, Kelvin Shepard, Johnny Moe. Did it really play out? Not really. Johnny Moe all of a sudden lost play calling duties with Dan Campbell midway through the season. Dan Campbell took over play call. So there's a reason to do this. There's also a reason to question because Brad Holmes thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and he also doesn't plan for things. Why are we taking Isaac Tesla with 3 third-round picks or traded up for him? Why are we doing that? Smartest guy in the room, Isaac Tesla. No one really knows who he is. Then we have Manu. Why are we taking Manu? We have been in critical spots in the draft and in terms of signing players. DJ Reed sucked this year, but we spent over $3 million. Carlton Davis, he's currently in the playoffs right now with the Patriots. That's what's going on right now. I know he's injury prone, but you know what? He had a pick in the playoff game against the Texans. But Amon-Ra, you can't come out and attack the fans like this because they're the ones supporting you. Who's the ones dyeing their hair blue? No one on the team. No celebrities are doing that. The fans are doing that. You cannot come out and say that. And I will say this real quick. Dan Campbell, if you do not get this offensive coordinator thing right, this is going to get dialed up a little bit on your seat because it's the second time, or this would eventually be the third time that you would have either fired an offensive coordinator or took over an offensive coordinator position in terms of calling plays midway through the season. And Amon-Ra, look, dude, you dropped a lot of passes last year in critical spots. I'm not saying your job's easy, but you dropped a lot of critical passes. And the Lions have a reason to question you.
Yep. Expectations have changed. Okay. Like this whole, we're not as bad as we used to be. What the hell does that mean with now? If our expectation as an organization is that almost is good enough, well, then I have really no interest in coming out and watching or cheering for this team. Sorry. Yep. Done. Over. You take your moral victories and go home. If that's if any team that I support and all of a sudden the goal is like to just be kind of good and not win it, I'm not watching them anymore. I'm done. I'm out of here.
The goal is to win a championship. And
yes.
I've
now.
I felt what it was a couple of years ago to win a championship on a football team that I've rooted for. I need that feeling back, Amon-Ra. And the Lions. The thing that annoys me the most is Amon-Ra literally said the same exact thing about Johnny Moe before the season started, and look how that panned out. The dude got fired midway through the season. And
Alex Anzalone, after the first game against the Packers, they got waxed. He's like, you guys don't understand. He's like, we're still, he's like, people just don't get it. We're still the Lions. We're still all this. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say.
Right. We saw that played out.
You could say that, but at the same time, you guys didn't even make the playoffs. You guys, realistically, if I look at the Lions' schedule, they should have beaten the Vikings both times. They should have beaten the Vikings both times. I'm just looking this off screen here for a second. If we're being honest, the Steelers should have been a win. There's 3 wins right there. That puts you at 11-6, I think. And then if we want to put it out there, the Lions offense or the Lions defense held the Eagles to 16 points. You had every right to win that game and take it over if your offense didn't suck. So I'm not, again, it's easy to play that game right now. It's easy to say, oh, this should have been a win, this could have been a win, this could have been a win. Like, it's easy to say that right now. But you guys had opportunities to win football games and put yourselves in the playoffs, but you didn't do that. And then you also at the end of the day, go and win a meaningless football game against the Bears because, why, Ben Johnson's on the other side. We got to beat Ben Johnson. Well, you know what? That may have costed you 2-3 – that did cost you 2-3 spots in the draft right. order, and you might lose your tackle or your offensive lineman and your guy that you want because you just had to go out and prove a point. Oh, and Nate mentioned this about going forward on 4th down in stupid spots. That's the one game all year where Dan Campbell decided to kick the football and not go for it in bad spots. And guess what happened? They won.
Yeah, is it ridiculous to think, and here we go, right? So I'm gonna make the fan base mad through what I'm about to say. Dan Campbell not being surrounded by great football minds is a glorified cheerleader. There, I said it. Do what you want to do with that information. Oh, I know he's a big emotional guy, and we're gonna bite kneecaps. Get over yourself.
Pause.
Pete Carroll was a rah-rah guy. But Pete Carroll wins Super Bowls. Actually, probably could have won a couple of Super Bowls, right? We talked about this yesterday. Hand the ball off. Dan Campbell, without being surrounded by the likes of Ben Johnson and other great coordinators, is a glorified cheerleader. And he was a glorified cheerleader in 2025. Because his game time decisions were horrible. You just want me to sit back and just trust Dan Campbell? Let's just trust Dan Campbell. Oh, he's going to get us back to the promised land. Says who? No, I'm sorry. I'm not willing to just sit back and trust Dan Campbell. This is the part about people not understanding the sport that gets to me. It's not about necessarily like who we brought in. I actually think, I take that back. I'll actually give the fans a little bit of credit. Maybe they do understand ball. Maybe they understand that if we don't put a new, ingenuitive, smart, savvy, young mind around Dan Campbell, he is a glorified cheerleader. And I get that culture and camaraderie and having everybody together, it means a lot. It means a lot in high school ball. It means a lot in college ball. But this is the National freaking Football League. You need to have coaches around you that know what they're doing and not just okay at their jobs, but are probably the best fit in that position. And you can't look me straight in the face and go, Mike McDaniel was not the best selection for that spot. I like Dan Campbell as a person and a human being. I love the fact that he was on that 0-16 team. There was this emotional reunion. He's rallied the city of Detroit behind him. Dan Campbell has brought that team further than they've really ever gone in franchise history in a very short amount of time. But we tend to forget what happened in his first couple of years in Detroit. And now we're just going to cast away this last season as, it happened, whatever. We'll just restart next year, and then we'll just be right back to where we were before. You're living in a fairy tale land if you think that's the reality.
Yeah, I tried telling my Chicago Bears fans that just because, again, I told them it felt like they were taking the playoff run a little bit for granted. We're going to be back next year. Everyone's going to improve. Wait till we have a defensive line. People don't realize that's not how sports work. Like, yeah, it's supposed to work like that. Like, every single year, your young players are supposed to take that next step, continue to develop, and all that fun stuff. Your coaches are supposed to learn from the previous mistakes and continue to improve on that and try to find ways, which the Bears could ultimately end up doing that. But that's not how sports work. Like, how many times have we seen promising teams one year and the next year, they're going to be back in the same spot. They're going to be in the back in the same spot. Let's look at the Panthers, Carolina Panthers, with Cam Newton, went to the Super Bowl, then they didn't even make the playoffs next year. How about the Jags? They were I mean, they were a little bit rigged from the Patriots AFC Championship game, but they had a young team, Blake Bortles, Jalen Ramsey, all those guys, Leonard Fournette, and they're like, oh, they're going to be back in the same spot. And that just wasn't the case. Like, come on, guys. Like, it's just because, like, in my head, like, I'm not being like I'm being a fan a little bit in my head a little bit of it feels like if we just get the lines retooled, the Lions will be back. But I know that's not going to be the case. I think if anything, I feel like what's going to happen is they're going to sign some mid players in the offensive line that is a little bit of an upgrade and just sell that as the hope. When in reality, I don't think the Lions. Honestly, I don't even know if the Lions can get back to Super Bowl contending unless some crazy things happen and some things have to change, especially with the front office. Honestly, is the coaching philosophy something we got to change as well in terms of going for it all the time, being super aggressive? I know that's the Lions' identity, but at some point, coaches and teams evolve a little bit. And I don't know
saying that that's your identity is no different than me being like, hey, I'm a dickhead because I'm a Leo.
Jeez.
You know, hey, I'm an asshole because I'm a Gemini. I just can't help it. Sorry, that's just who I am. That's just my personality. Bull honky. How about you make the right decisions in the right spots? How about you take points when you have points available to you? It's not ridiculous. We can't coach every game like it's a D4 high school football game.
Jeez.
We can't do it.
Does D4 even exist?
It does. Actually, I played in D5 back in high school. So
we're talking about
D1
we're talking about high school.
to D8.
I was like, college.
No, we ain't talking about college.
Yeah. Okay, no, I got you.
High school in there. But anyways, no, I mean, it might sound harsh. But it's something that needed to be said. Because the same emotional connection that Lions fans have to Dan Campbell is the same emotional connection that I see people have to Francisco Mendoza in the college football game. Like, he is charming. He is energetic. It's something that draws people in. That's something that Dan Campbell has. It's the charm. It's the energy. It's the everything else along those lines. But until you lost the ability for us to just be patient and trust the process with how you played in that second half against San Fran, that was it. You lost it. I no longer am able to just sit back and trust the process. You choked that away. You choked away 2025. I can't just sit back and be like, I trust everything you say. I trust every decision that you and Brad Holmes have to make. No, we are the media, and this is our job. We got to talk about it. And we talked about it. So, any final thoughts before we head to break, Ryan?
No. Actually, I guess, I know this is a little bit off topic, but a comment coming in from the YouTube chat about the Morocco situation we talked earlier. We'll, again, touch on it real quickly. This is coming from Hamza Boussard 158. Says, interesting to hear your take as neutral observers. The AFCON circus is way deeper than it may look. Lots of politics, but I agree. Morocco and us Moroccans came out as the biggest losers on all fronts. Yeah, I would agree with that, just because of the way that everything was handled, the way that the tournament was handled, and a lot of all the other teams. I know this is way off topic, but just thought I'd get it in there. And, I think also, I mean, you saying the AFCON is a circus, I think in real time, I think a lot of these soccer tournaments internationally are a little bit of a circus. Look back at Qatar, Brazil, South Africa, Russia even, and I'm sure the U.S., there's going to be some circus things going on.
Yeah. It's gonna get weird. Let's just hope the World Cup doesn't get weird. We got to make sure that goes as smoothly as possible.
Let's hope
when it comes here to the States. But coming up next on Inside the Game, talking about a little beef between Baker Mayfield and Stefanski. A little beef between those two. We're also going to talk about, maybe for our final topic today, a little brush up between Miami and Indiana after the national championship game. Why sometimes it's smart to hold your tongue before you pass judgment, because you really don't know what's going on. We'll also work in our question of the day. All that and more coming up next inside the game.
Experience the thrill that came like never before with NSN's Game Rewind.
Dive into full match commentaries enhanced with cutting-edge dynamic graphics,
Letting you relive the highs and lows of your favorite matches in astonishing detail.
whether it's a championship win or a legendary play.
NSN Game Rewind bridges the past and future with a broadcast experience designed to captivate.
Call 586-304-4405
And start watching today.
You know what I just now realized? I keep calling Fernando Mendoza Francisco Mendoza.
Yeah, I
don't know if there's like a baseball player out there that I keep getting them mixed up with. I swear there's a Francisco Mendoza. Hold on, let me use the power of technology.
because I thought you may have been talking about his brother, but his brother's name is Alberto, and I was like, Francisco Mendoza. I was like, I imagine he's referring to Fernando, but no.
Okay. Chivas USA re-signed midfielder Francisco Panchito Mendoza, the Mexican player with the most all-time Major League Soccer appearances. There you go.
That's who you were thinking of for sure.
Most ever MLS appearances. The Francisco Mendoza, of course. How could I forget, man?
Even
So
if
that's
I search up
the- sorry,
Francisco Mendoza, Fernando comes up. So
I know that's the first result on ESPN. They're like, you meant Fernando, right? Like, no. I'm talking about Major League Soccer here, Google, okay?
obviously,
I mean, I guess it is a dual podcast, right? We do a little bit of both, but anyways. What do we got up next on our all sports content? A little bit of beef, apparently, Ryan.
yeah, this is regarding Baker Mayfield at the moment. So as we know, Kevin Stefanski fired from the Browns. He's currently now in Atlanta, which is the same division as Baker Mayfield. Again, this beat reporter just tweeted this out. Falcons Kevin Stefanski had a dumpster fire at the quarterback in Cleveland. Mayfield and Watson failed, which started a chain reaction to 11 starters. Shedeur Sanders closed out the year. Again, just doing his job. Baker Mayfield, quote, tweets this as failed is quite the reach, pal. Still waiting on a text/call from him after I got shipped off like a piece of garbage. Can't wait to see you twice a year, coach. And then where's Joe Thomas? Oh, yeah, here's Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas snaps back, obviously the Hall of Famer himself. I could be wrong, but I've heard that communication is a two-way street, and there were no laws against you, Baker, sending Stefanski a text or calling him after you got traded. No responses after this. But no, just a little bit of beef. And I think honestly, anywhere where Baker Mayfield goes, there's a little bit of drama. That's just the way, that's just his personality. That's the way he plays. I personally think Baker Mayfield is one hell of an overrated quarterback up to this point because tell me, what has he won? What has he won? He's won nothing. But again, I know what he did with the Browns. He won them a playoff game with Stefanski, got them to the wild card. I completely understand that. But, I mean, Baker, come on, dude. Let it go. Let it go.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say failed, I think, is accurate, but I don't think that was on Baker Mayfield's shoulders. I think that's on the shoulders of an organization like the Cleveland Browns, who, again, much like the Jets and what the Lions were for forever and might slip back into being, is that no quarterback wants to go to those teams because they know exactly what that means. It's either a life sentence or your career is just not going to pan out. And so, yeah, while he hasn't won a Super Bowl, I'll give Baker Mayfield credit. I think watching the renaissance in his career has been something to admire. All he was saying was that I'm not a complete failure, right? And to get them to that point, as you mentioned, what he did with the Browns is still impressive, right? Because it's the Browns. All he was doing was standing up for himself, saying, like, if you want to say a complete failure, you can talk about Deshaun Watson all you want. I mean, to see his career fall off the side of a cliff the way that it has been very pleasing. But as it pertains to Baker Mayfield, he's led a renaissance in his career. He's changed a lot. Now, Baker coming out of college, we thought we had Johnny Manziel 2.0 on our hands.
Yeah.
I very realistically thought that he was going to be the second coming of Johnny Manziel, but in fact, he's been the opposite. And he's done decent with the Bucs. Again, has he won the big one? No. but I still kind of like him where he is. But your coach, your position coach, not texting you or calling you or letting you know anything after you get shipped off, like he said, a piece of garbage, is not on his shoulders. He in my mind is under no sort of expectation, just observing this from a third person perspective, to text his coach and be like, hey, are we cool? Are we all right? I mean, we just spent all this time in the locker room. We spent all this time in the offseason all year together, and not even a text, not even a heads up, nothing. And now we're going to get this like sympathy post about how Stefanski just inherited a mess. He inherited a mess. He is none of this is his problem. He inherited a dumpster fire in Cleveland. Maybe so. And maybe that organization has made a reputation of wasting away career after career. But I'm going to have to disagree with Joe Thomas on this one. And I got nothing to say about Joe Thomas specifically. He is a Hall of Famer. And I just don't think people like Baker Mayfield very much. I think they're holding on to what they saw out of him in the past. But he is under there is nothing on his shoulders, in my personal opinion, to where he has to handle that. It's not on his shoulders to send the damn text or to make the damn call or be like, hey, man, it didn't work out. Like, this is just a finger-pointing match at this point. I can't wait to see him play twice a year.
No, I think it'll be great to see him play twice a year. That was going to be my point. But, I think if you're Baker Mayfield, I think that there's always some sort of drama. You're completely right about the Johnny Manziel part. Like, I forgot about him supposed to be Johnny Manziel 2.0. But if you're Baker Mayfield, I mean, look, dude, you went to Cleveland. It's one of the worst franchises in the history of sports. I mean, I didn't understand what you were going to get. They don't know how to. Hearing things from former players, them saying, like, it's such a horribly ran organization. I mean, what did you even expect yourself? And when you get shipped off, I mean, does every player that gets cut, every player that gets traded in any franchise, in any sport, are they supposed to get like a bouquet of flowers, maybe a 3-course meal? Excuse me.
No, man, but I mean, a text or a call is I mean, that seems commonplace, right?
I mean, does he really have to send a text? I mean,
no.
At the same time, he could have.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield could have sent a text himself too. If you're really pissed off about something, you send a text. If it really bothers you, you don't just. Like it's just going to spill over. You talk shit behind the guy's back. Like, if it really bothered you that much, I mean, he got traded like 3-4 years ago at this point, or cut. If it really bothered you that much, Baker, you could have texted or called Stefanski yourself and said, hey, man, really just didn't like the way that things went down here. I just want to say thankful for my time, or what happened here to this decision. Like, what happened? If you have that much of an issue, and you're a grown man, Baker, again, you don't have to have someone hold your hand everywhere you go. You could call yourself. Joe Thomas is a Hall of Famer himself. Baker Mayfield, is he a Hall of Famer? God, no. I'm taking Joe Thomas's word over Baker Mayfield's word in this little Twitter sphere beef.
I will say, though, the one thing I love about Baker, and again, it goes back to the whole Johnny Manziel thing. And, of course, for Manziel, it came off as arrogance, and he never really quite got over that. I think the one thing we've seen out of Baker is that side of him, maybe the ego death, has been good for him. And then that's exactly what Cleveland was. It was the ego death for a player who realized, like, oh, crap, like, if I want to make it in this league, like, it's going to take a little bit less of this and a little bit more of this accurately in order to make it in this league. And so I don't think it was even a big deal in Baker's mind. What I think is, I love the competitiveness of Baker Mayfield. In that, the edge in which he plays with, the edge in which he carries himself, it's something that if he were to ever be, say come in on a 1-2 year deal to be the Lions quarterback, if we needed someone to fill in that spot, let's say Jared Goff, falls off the side of a mountain, not that I would ever want that to happen, but let's just say it does, I would love having him in that spot because I think he has just a certain kind of FU competitive edge to him. Are we convinced that this isn't Baker just trying to psych himself up a little bit? Are we convinced that this isn't Baker just trying to give himself that little extra edge, that little extra oomph to get himself into a position mentally to be ready to go out and compete and take it to the next level? That's also the other angle of this. not everything is what it seems or what it appears, especially on social media and the rage bait generation that we live in with our fellow rage baiter here on the other side of the screen. That's the reality of when you go on social media and you read these things, you're like, that's not real, right? This seems like fake beef. This seems like, American reality TV, which is, I think, something Baker is leaning into. So again, I'm not completely convinced that he's not just doing this to give himself that little extra emotional edge to go out and kick some what next year. Because I think that's just also kind of the player Baker is.
No, I can see it. I can 100% agree with that point. I didn't think of it that way, but I think you're right. That could be one of the things. But no, I think knowing Baker Mayfield, I don't know him personally, obviously, but seeing his body of work over the last 10 years or so, it still feels like a little bit of real beef. Just I don't necessarily know.
Yeah, probably.
I don't necessarily know if Baker Mayfield fakes anything. If I'm being completely honest, it doesn't feel fake. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see yours. But my only thing about Baker Mayfield is, at some point, you have to win something. You could talk all the rah-rah you want. You play in a weak division as it is anyway. You played in a weak conference as it was in college, and you made the college football playoff a handful of times. I get it. You played in some really good ones. I think that Georgia-Oklahoma Rose Bowl is one of the greatest football games I've ever seen. But at some point, Baker, you have got to win something meaningful. I'm not talking AFC South championships. I'm not talking Big 12 championships when Texas wasn't relevant. But at some point, you've got to win one. Oh, how come? It looked like it was a pause, like you were going to say something, but like it was cut off. So I was like, huh? What are you going to say? But no. I wouldn't be Trace McSorley. Throw it on a dime. But all I'll say is at some point, you've got to win one. You can't lose to a rookie in Jane Daniels in the playoffs. You can't. I think they beat the Panthers. Yeah, they beat the Panthers, but then ultimately lost in the tiebreaker. But at some point, Baker, you've got to win something.
Yeah, that's true. And it's what's going on? You got an earthquake over there?
No. Continue.
But yeah, I think some of it might be artificial. I think some of it might be just Baker trying to build up some level of personal vendetta in order to spur himself forward. But you're right, man. I mean, I think it's a two-way street. I just think he didn't really, appreciate the coming from the angle of Kevin Stefanski as the victim in all of this. But I like the competitiveness. I like the forwardness. I like the willingness to create almost kind of this beef a little bit that's really going to help launch him into the next level. Before we take the break, coming up next, Ryan, what do you prefer? You want to talk about head coaches and firings, or you want to talk about Miami and Indiana and the altercation after that? I know we got question of the day worked in here too.
I think we should do. I don't have the video of the Miami Indiana thing, so let's go coaches.
All right, we'll do coaches coming up next. Our final segment before question of the day here on Inside the Game, episode 213. With that, we're back live here on the National Soccer Network. Nate Wangler, Ryan Glinsky, Jonathan Turner somewhere in the background, moving stuff around in the studio here today as we get ready for another fun weekend But you got an interesting point on our prep sheet here at the very end of our all sports segment. And it's something that we talk about a lot in sports, right? Teams that get coaches that win a lot of games, but they never really find a way to win the big one, right? They always bring you to the end of the line. They always put you in a position to do so, but they never really can get it done, right? You think about, or maybe they have gotten it done, but they haven't gotten it done in a while afterwards. Maybe they got it done early in their career, but for some reason they haven't found the solution ever since. You know, you think of names like James Franklin, Sean McDermott, obviously John Harbaugh, who was recently fired by the Ravens after a long, long time as their head coach, but just kind of lost his way, specifically in the postseason towards the end of his career. So I guess the main question here is, when is it the right time to fire a coach in that position? You got a graphic for this, Ryan?
Yeah, let me give a couple examples for the people at home. We'll get to the Ravens specific example after this. But this is just the two that immediately came to my mind before I did the Ravens one. But James Franklin, 4 years before he got there, Penn State went 31-19 in 19, no bowl wins, and obviously all the other stuff that happened beforehand. But he did a really good job of leveling the ship and steering it in the right direction. But in his tenure, 104-45 record, a Big Ten championship, college football playoff semifinals, and 4 New Year's Six Bowl wins. Sean McDermott with the Bills, the NFL, didn't make the playoffs for 17 years, and during that time, the Bills went 118-154. During his time, he went 5 division titles, lost in the AFC title game twice, and he went 98-50, and obviously we know a lot of those were to the hands of Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. For the Ravens' sake, Brian Billick, he was the coach before Harbaugh, 1 Super Bowl, 2 division titles, 4 playoff appearances. And if you wonder why there's no before that, because, well, the Ravens have really only hired like 4 coaches in their history. John Harbaugh, in his tenure, 1 Super Bowl, 6 divisions, 12 playoff appearances, record for most road playoff wins, 180-113. So the question becomes, when do you eventually fire a head coach? And honestly, if I'll give my personal opinion, I think it is after 5 years of not winning a championship and just kind of staying in the same rut. And kind of look at Mike Tomlin. He wasn't fired. He mutually parted ways. That's another one I didn't even think of putting up on the screen. But, no, those are the 4. And I would say 5 years of kind of just the same results and no sign of improving. I think that's the way you go.
Unless your name is Penn State, because I know what I'm about to say doesn't ring true for everybody. You don't quit a job until you have a job, right? Like, that's always been my adage to people. You don't quit a job until you have another job, right? Because the worst thing that you can possibly do is pop up and me going, hey, I quit. I want no part of this anymore. I'm stepping away. I don't want anything to do with this. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh, okay, now I don't have an income stream. Now I don't have any options. Now I'm scrambling to try and find what the next option is for my football program. Again, unless your name is Penn State, because they fired James Franklin in the middle of the season. Now, they got away with it because they got a great coach to replace him, but there was a second there where that could have gone very, 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 very bad for Penn State. And so I think for a lot of these places, you get the feeling just from watching the trends and understanding, hey, we're not who we used to be. We might be still winning games, but we're not getting to that level to where we want to where the expectation is and where it's been built early in this coach's career. So you're looking, you're putting feelers out there, you're interviewing, you're getting in people's ears as to who could potentially be the heir to the throne, or heir to the throne, I should say. There's no H, the H is silent anyways, you get the point. But you don't quit a job until you have a job. And so I think for these organizations to think that they weren't already thinking about James Franklin's replacement for a couple of years is wrong. Now, obviously, they didn't leak anything, which credit to Penn State that there were no leaks on that. But it doesn't just happen on a whim.
I disagree with James Franklin's replacement because they struck out on like 10 different coaches before they eventually landed on Matt Campbell. I think
maybe they had an idea, but yeah.
I think maybe they were thinking of the replacement after the UCLA game. I think that would be. Let's be honest. Every athletic director, every single GM or owner, whatever you want to say it is, they always have a list in their back pocket if shit goes sour. Look at Sharon Moore, for crying out loud. All that stuff goes
Yep.
on. They always have a list, but I don't think they were
Yep.
ever actively looking for James Franklin's replacement unless he lost the national championship, which obviously they didn't even make the playoff and they were barely over a 500 team. But I'll say this.
Yeah.
All these coaches that I've listed, obviously Sean McDermott hasn't gotten it yet, but they're all going to land on their feet because they're good football coaches. Look at Harbaugh.
Absolutely.
Harbaugh's got, I think, is it $20 million a year or $10 million a year? I don't know what his number is with the Giants, but the Giants are going to be in the conversation of making the playoffs at least next year. You think of Virginia Tech, which, by the way, I want to see Virginia Tech relevant for one thing. Just so once a year I can see Enter Sandman on primetime television once a year. That's all I want to see. I could care less if they get blown out.
Neverland.
If I could care less if they get blown out in that game, I could care less if they lose every single game after they play that game. I just need to see Enter Sandman on primetime television in a night game once a year. That's all I need. It's not hard to ask. It's all I want. It's going to create another earthquake with them. But all I'll say is with McDermott, he's going to end up on a job somewhere. He's going to land on his feet somewhere doing something in terms of the NFL. But no, he's going to be he's a really good football coach. He's going to be back on his feet. But no, I think all these coaches are going to be really good in whatever spot. But the only thing is if you're one of these coaches or one of these teams, colleges, whatever it is, you have got to have a equal, if not better, replacement. I don't know if Matt Campbell is a better replacement than James Franklin. Maybe if you give him the resources, maybe we can have that discussion. But I think he did a really good job at Iowa State. The Ravens have a good history of hiring coaches. Is it going to be better than Harbaugh? I don't know. The Bills, you didn't make the playoffs for 17 years. At what point does that start becoming a question? Can Josh Allen ever get it done? At some point, because they had a damn good roster. Well, all I got to say is, if you're going to get rid of a coach, you better have an equal, if not better, replacement. And only time will tell for all these teams.
You just better have an idea as to who you're going to replace him with. I remember the same conversation about Jim at Michigan. You know, I mean, you get 7-8 years down the line,
Matt Campbell
and people
was one
are
of the
like,
guys
okay,
I wanted in 2020.
well, yeah, it's like, okay, you want to fire Jim Harbaugh? Who's your other option?
That's what a lot of people
so Matt
said.
Campbell.
What
Yeah, I could see that.
Like
That
if
would have been, but like, who?
Like if the
What,
Lions,
you're just going to fire a coach and then what?
like if the Lions went out there and fired, let's say next year they don't make the playoffs. Obviously, hypotheticals here. If they go out there, don't make the playoffs, Dan Campbell gets canned. Who are you taking? Because I mean, he has to be arguably
Ryan Dable.
Jeez, Ryan Day. Arguably he has to be arguably the best coach in Lions franchise history, right? Like, I can't think of another one.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if we're going all the way back to the 50s, but that's just a different time era, and that doesn't count to me personally. But
Right.
I mean, he's obviously better than Caldwell, better than Schwartz, Patricia, all those guys. Like, he obviously is better. But you have to have a good replacement. And I personally think back to the point of when do you fire a head coach. I've said it's got to be a 5-year span of just the same results and no sign of it getting better. Because at that point, you're just kind of stuck in a rut. And maybe that coach ultimately is your best chance of winning. But at some point, you do have to make – I think McDermott was fired a little bit prematurely. I could see Harbaugh because it's been there for so long. I can see Tomlin's. James Franklin is a little questionable to me personally because I think he's going to do a really good job at Virginia Tech. But at some point, you have to make that jump and you have to make that choice of, well, this isn't working. We have to somehow find a way to get to that next step and over the hump. At some point, you have to find it. But I think 5 years of just this and no sign of improvement, that's the sign.
Yeah, exactly it. And at least that's a smart thing for organizations to do, to have a backup plan. Now, I'm not going to say all of them do. It's very realistic that there's just certain teams that just fire coaches simply because it's a spur of the moment decision. I mean, the reason why James Franklin was canned so suddenly this year was because that's probably one of the more underperforming college football teams that I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, with the amount of talent that they had stacked on that roster, like, there were many talking heads at ESPN and the like who said the same thing, and that's Penn State is the most talented roster in the country this year, and they barely finish above 500. By the way, it's wild to think that Indiana's entire season hinged on that one catch at the end of the fourth quarter in the back of the end zone, the little toe touch catch. Freaking crazy. But that's the reality, So it was, I feel like it was something that was building with James Franklin because we always knew him as big game James. But when it finally came down to it and that happened, that's when Penn State was like, all right, we got to move on. And it's like a rip the Band-Aid type of situation off because there's no good way of doing it. Either you wait till the end of the year and you completely lose the locker room and then you completely lose everything else and then it all kind of falls apart, or you rip the Band-Aid off in the middle of the season, you give the second man up an opportunity, and then the kids try to rally around him. And at least you keep some sort of continuity as opposed to losing the locker room. But then again, the players said that they were upset about it. So
to turn this back into a USA conversation real quick, I mean, the U.S. failed in one of the two biggest things, and they fired Berhalter right away. They got grouped in their home soil. That's the sole reason why they fired him.
Not acceptable.
I personally think the U.S. just doesn't want to get embarrassed. That's my personal vendetta. I just think that they just don't want to get embarrassed in front of the whole world. That's just my thing. People can disagree with it, whatever they want. But I think, though, at some point, you have to let go of the coach if they fail in the biggest stage. And, I mean, and then I also think we didn't really touch on it yet, but even if there's, say, because I'm trying to think of a comparison. Look at Izzo, for example. His last national championship was 25 years ago. But he's been in the Final Four a handful of times, but he's never won the national. He hasn't even been to the Natty since 2009. Hasn't won the national championship in 25 years. So what makes him stay for 25 years? Because Harbaugh has a Super Bowl. McDermott has made the playoffs time and time again after a 17-year drought. Franklin leveled things, and who the other guy that I said? Billick obviously won a Super Bowl too. But is it because it's basketball? Is it because it's football? Like, what do you think that difference is with Tom Izzo, who's been there for 25 plus years, but only has one national championship 25 years ago?
Michigan State has sixth most all-time Final Four appearances with 10 of them.
And he's got 8, I think.
Mind you, I believe 8 of them have been since Tom Izzo has been there. Michigan has 8 in their program's history. So Tom Izzo himself has the same amount of Final Four appearances that Michigan has in school history. I realize he's only won one national championship. He's also produced several NBA players, top-end NBA players, who my guess is probably give a lot of money back to the university. And we talk about a money producer. National championships aside, money is the thing that is the reason why men's basketball is so important at Michigan State. It is a basketball school. Much like in Indiana, but not quite to the same extent, right? Because Michigan State football has had their day in the sun, their days in the sun, whereas Indiana leading up to this year has never really had that, minus last year, obviously a good year, but didn't beat anybody. Michigan State has had their years. Basketball pushes the ballot at Michigan State. And so the amount of money, the amount of sponsorships, the amount of all these things that come with the name Tom Izzo in basketball at MSU, it's the same thing every year. Like, it's the wait for basketball season. That's the reality of living in this state for the most part. Now, there have been years where this has been different, but it's Michigan kicks what in football, Michigan State kicks what in basketball, and then the rest of the sports, I mean, hockey, generally
Both
speaking, it's kind of back and forth. Both are pretty good. You look at baseball, normally it's Michigan. MSU baseball has had their whatever, but and then, we can talk about Olympians. Michigan is going to be better across the board 99.9% of the time just because of the brand. But if we talk about men's basketball, it's all of those other things. It's all of those other things on top of the deep runs that he makes in the tournament. Now, yeah, I mean, one national championship in the year 2000 is not necessarily a glowing review of the way Tom Izzo has coached at Michigan State. I was 4 years old when he won his last national title. But at the same exact time, you weren't even born yet. Oh, that's wild.
Still had to wait another 3 years.
Right. But to say that one national title in this amount of time, it is. I will say that I use it simply because I like to get a rise out of MSU fans, but it's an oversimplification of the entire thing. If that's the only thing that you're going to say about Tom Izzo, because there is so much other stuff thanks to that university that if they were to fall into irrelevancy and go out and win 13, 14 games, the entire house could collapse in on itself because basketball is Michigan State and Michigan State is basketball. And I mean, they can all admit that. Like, it's what it is, you know? And I had a babysitter when I was growing up, Annalise Pickrell, who played on their women's basketball team. And I was not a Michigan State fan conventionally, but there were days where she would bring us down there and, introduce us to the team, and we'd be at the Breslin. Like, there is very much a basketball culture there. And all of that stems from Coach Izzo. Like, obviously, it was magic back in the day, but really, in the modern era, Izzo is Michigan State basketball. But I also think it's weird when they call him Mr. March. You got to get rid of Mr. March because, he ain't Mr. March.
You don't like January, Izzo.
No. He hasn't been Mr. March. And, so
I didn't know losing to
it gets a little
seed.
ridiculous. Yeah. In Michigan, hasn't Michigan made more national championships in hoops than Michigan State? Like in the last, don't they have 2 trips in the last decade? MSU has 1?
Not decade now. It'd be 1 in the last decade.
Okay. All right.
But
Okay.
two since 2009, you could say
Since
2.
2009.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That was the Trey Burke year. Okay. Yeah. So anyways, so I think that's probably why they hold on to Izzo. But anyways, question of the day.
Question of the day. Everybody knows that drill. Salt Athletic is an official sponsor of us here at the National Soccer Network. Use promo code Edison15 to save 15% off of that #1 smell-proof cleat bag. Visit saltathletic.com today or scan that QR code. This one coming from Nate right before the show. If you're a high school quarterback coming in, choosing where you want to go to college, what school are you choosing?
All right, so we're going to go, hypothetically, you're a 5-star, right? So you got your pick of the litter. Your name's Bryce. Your last name's Underwood. You're from Belleville, right?
Yep.
Got it right the first time. All right. And you get to choose where you're going. I am going to say, I'll give you my top 3. How about this?
Okay.
Indiana, because I would love to be coached by Sig.
Not
Oregon.
as an incoming freshman, you wouldn't even play.
That's fair.
You'd be a transfer portal guy.
I would be. You know what? That's a fair point. I didn't even think about that. Okay, so I'm going to go Oregon, Ohio State, as much as that pains me to say.
All the wide receivers.
And LSU? But I don't know about now. Now it's a little tricky.
See,
but LSU, Ohio State, and Oregon. Ohio State and Oregon are probably my #1 and #2.
I would say this. Because if I look at the LSU now, and if I look at Lane Kiffin's quarterbacks, I mean, Jackson Dart obviously is his most impressive. But if I look at any of his quarterbacks, it's a heavy RPO type thing. So I would stay away from LSU. And I don't even understand Bryce saying, well, LSU develops quarterbacks really well. Well, the old regime developed Burrow, and that was just a lightning in a bottle thing. Jaden Daniels, sure, he won the Heisman.
Keep in mind, he started at OSU. He was a transfer, too.
So I would say I think Oregon's up there. I really think Oregon's up there because you think of Dylan Gabriel, obviously, Bo Nix.
Marcus Mariota.
I'm thinking just what Dan Lanning has done. Bo Nix,
recent,
Gabriel, Dante Moore, and now maybe Dylan Raiola. Ohio State, because Will Howard wasn't any good.
I wouldn't do anything in the NFL, but I'd be pretty good in college.
Yeah. Okay. Ohio State, definitely. Ohio State, and honestly, I can't even think of a third one because I would go USC. I'd go USC simply because of Lincoln Riley and his track record.
Yeah,
you think of
fair.
Hurts, Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Caleb, and Maava, who I think he's not obviously up to that level, but I think he's a good quarterback.
Yep.
For the college level.
All right, fair enough. The other, maybe we'll ask different position groups as we go along this week. I think if I was an offensive lineman, it would obviously be a different story. Michigan would be number 1 on my list. Iowa. That'd be another good choice. But anyways, that wraps up episode 213 of Inside the Game. A big thanks, as always, to everybody who joins us on our show. Again, our projected starting 11 for the U.S. men's national team coming up tomorrow here on Inside the Game. We'll also continue our conversations with some of the Lions stuff, maybe some other Detroit sports. I don't know. Maybe we got something super special in the can for you guys coming up for our final one on the week. But if it's brutal outside where you are, stay warm, stay safe, drive safe. All right, stay in one piece because we need you back here to watch this show starting back up tomorrow at 9 a.m. right here on Inside the Game.
From the biggest matches to the hottest takes, Jonathan Turner and Nathan Wenger bring you the stories, the analysis, and the edge you won't get anywhere else. Streaming live weekdays at 9 a.m. on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all major platforms. No filters, no fluff, just real talk, real soccer. This is Inside the Game.